Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media, St. Louis's home for arts, education, and culture.
She was always growing and redefining herself.
Truly a story about America, the hope and promise of what it means to be an American.
They have become something much greater than we ever dreamed of.
Today on Spotlight, a journalist traces 4 generations of a powerful dynasty, why this saga reads like a novel and could be a mini-series. Plus, it houses some of the most unique plants from around the world. See how the staff keeps the rainforest running. And then a research startup targeting cancer cells by attacking them from the inside. But first, a historic theater is saved by a nonprofit known for its love of movies. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
Cinema St. Louis is a small arts nonprofit. We present annual film festivals around town. We started in 1992 with our largest film fest, the St. Louis International Film Festival. And since then, we've added on additional festivals throughout the year. We also offer free filmmaking camps for local students, as well as educational screenings for students throughout SLIF.
Light. The orchestrated illusion.
We've been lucky over the years. SLIF has garnered a lot of attention. In 2019, we were included in USA Today's top 10 film festivals to explore. We are also one of only around 80 film festivals around the world that is Academy sanctioned for our shorts program. You know, we show upwards of 400 films during that 11-day festival, and the majority of those are independent films, most of them from other countries. We do get some of the big studio films because people do turn out for those. But the films that we choose are more of an art house nature, so we're very careful in how we curate the films that we choose to show. There's a different type of education and self-awareness that takes place when you give yourself that time to experience an art house film. I think it's an interesting way to kind of tell the history of society, to immerse yourself in this other world. We as an organization has preserved and tried to treasure and educate others on the impact it can have on a person and their relations with others in the community.
That was really how it started, was a group of film lovers who wanted to share their passion with the St. Louis community. St. Louis needed something more. We weren't getting some of the top-notch foreign films, some of the independent films. We knew there was so much more going on internationally. You know, there were people who were eager for opening those doors to more offerings. So in 1992, we said we need to organize, do something. It was just for a weekend, and that was what we thought it was always going to be. But we just wanted to bring some films that deserved attention, that we knew people were missing. Our expectations were very modest. We just wanted to have a great weekend celebrating film that didn't get here otherwise. We were very happy with the response that we got. We found that there was a community that cared about this and a hunger that wasn't being met. And so that encouraged us to keep going. Finally, in 1998, the name was changed to St. Louis International Film Festival. Eventually, the name was changed to Cinema St. Louis because it became so much more than the film festival.
The Hi-Pointe is quite a magical place. It is the oldest art house cinema in the city of St. Louis. In 1906, it was actually an amusement park called the West End Resort. There was a student film made in 1916 that showed what this area looked like. And it was, you know, a farm here, a building there. It was very sparse. And then as things started to grow from there, a theater was built. It was a very popular theater, and then the James family purchased it in the 70s, and they're a multi-generational family of cinema operators and owners. With the theater being on the highest point of St. Louis, it has been a very recognizable gem for the community. George and Georgia, James, just decided that it was time to transition out of it. And it was one of those things where we happened to be in the right place at the right time and the stars aligned. We were actually looking for venues for SLIF this last November. And we had a conversation with them and thought, why not ask if they're ever interested in selling to think of us? When we discovered this opportunity, we saw it as a way not only to establish a home for our organization, but to truly create a central location for film lovers, filmmakers, and to save one of the last art house cinemas in the city of St. Louis. As a small arts nonprofit with presenting film festivals, we have been nomadic in nature over our 31, now 32 years. And it's been a rough go, especially coming out of COVID, where we didn't know if commercial venues or our typical nonprofit venues would be available to us. So we really were interested in finding a place that we could make a home so that we could do even more in terms of sharing our love of film with the St. Louis community. Our goal is to build a strong filmmaking resource for filmmakers. And by doing so, we hope that it kind of takes filmmaking to the next level.
I'm hoping that it starts to be a space that filmmakers come to more regularly. I feel like this new change with Hi-Pointe is just going to be amazing because we'll be able to feel like this is home. But how great will it be if we can all generally be in one space rather than scattered across the city?
Cinema St. Louis is so invaluable. They have become something much greater than we ever dreamed of.
Scan the QR code on your screen to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
The Vanderbilts, the Kennedys, the Bushes, each are considered family dynasties. Author Andrew Meyer now adds another family to that distinguished roster in his biography, Morgenthaus, Power, Privilege, and the Rise of an American Dynasty. The longtime journalist and author of 3 previous nonfiction books admits that beyond New York, few Americans are familiar with the Morgenthaus name.
It's really kind of extraordinary that they're not better known, because they were right there next to Woodrow Wilson, right next to FDR and Mrs. Roosevelt, arguably the most important figure in the history of American women.
Meyer chronicles how over 4 generations, the Morgenthaus made their fortune in Manhattan real estate, advised presidents, exposed the Armenian genocide, and from their wealth, built a dynasty of public service, particularly in America's criminal justice system.
I have proof.
In fact, Robert Morgenthaus was the inspiration behind the popular TV series Law & Order. Known to New Yorkers as The Boss and DA for life, he was the longest tenured district attorney in the history of New York City, serving for 4 decades. Morgenthaus oversaw controversial prosecutions, from the war on the mafia to the infamous Central Park jogger case.
Dip into the Kennedy years and you'll learn about Robert Morgenthaus was with Bobby Kennedy the day that his brother Jack was shot in Dallas. That is untold history, and many people are fascinated by that. Or if you're interested in the New Deal, Henry Morgenthaus Jr. was Secretary of the Treasury for almost 12 years, one of our longest serving cabinet members in history. Did not have a college degree, failed out, as you know, from prep school. Roosevelt's very, very close friend.
With unprecedented access to family archives, Meyer spent more than a decade researching and conducting interviews to share the epic saga of the Morgenthaus.
It is an enormous undertaking. I knew that at the time. 4 generations. I didn't know much about the first generation at the time. I knew something about the DA of New York, Robert Morgenthaus. Each generation left millions, really millions of documents. And so I researched in archives around the world. I interviewed more than 350 people, many of them many times. Drove them a little crazy with my questioning.
I have to admit, I get the book in the mail and I'm like, oh, wow. I go to lift it. I was a little intimidated by the book size.
It's really 5 different books. I tried to interweave, and the great thing that readers are telling me that it works, the different generations. So you're not in one generation solely. You meet the next generation for several chapters as you go. And then here's the trick for all you aspiring writers, and writers, you know this, short chapters. 2 words, pro tip. short chapters. Keep them reading. There are a lot of chapters. It's a 3-pound book. Works well as a doorstep and a Christmas present. It's really a story about America. It's really a story about the great immigrant story and kind of the hope and promise of what it means to be an American. It sounds cliche, it sounds corny, but that's really at the heart of what they stood for and what they tried to achieve.
To find out if this dynasty is still around, watch the full interview at hecmedia.org.
They are the best-selling authors and all of your favorite genres. For in-depth, one-on-one interviews, go to hecmedia.org.
We're here inside the Climatron at Missouri Botanical Garden, and it's a geodesic dome. It's a conservatory structure, and it's really a popular place, particularly at this time of the year when people are looking for some warm destination to go. They can come to the Climatron, which is a representation of a rainforest ecosystem. So we have a lot of different types of plants that you would find in rainforest in South America, Central America, and other parts of the world. Also within the Climatron, we have a lot of different plants that may be endangered in their natural environment. Matter of fact, we have 3 species that are extinct in their natural habitat. What we're doing today is we are pruning trees in the Climatron. And the reason we're doing that is because we need to reduce density of the canopy in order to allow for sunlight to fall on the underlying plants. And we're also pruning in order to control the size and the height of the plants so that they don't conflict with the glass of the Climatron. I think that what people don't realize about the plants in the Climatron is that if we didn't maintain them on an annual, regular basis, it would be completely overgrown and virtually it would revert back to being a normal rainforest. So the Climatron at its highest point is 70 feet. Some of these trees that are growing inside the Climatron, in the wild, they could probably reach hundreds of feet. So we have a limited amount of space as far as overhead. We have a limited amount of space within the planting beds themselves. So it's important that the staff come in here and remove things as necessary and also prune things in order to keep them within an appropriate size for the conservatory. So if you take a look at the tree that Dan is pruning right now, when we are finished pruning that tree, there won't hardly be any foliage left on it. It'll just be stems up in the air. They've been pruned to be well placed around the point at which they emerge. And by the end of the cycle, the tree will be almost as full as it is now. So the difference between pruning the trees in the Climatron compared to pruning the trees in landscape is that the trees in the Climatron don't have the same fibrous structure as trees out in the landscape, like a hardwood. These are tropical trees. They don't have the same sort of physiology as hardwoods that grow in the landscape. I think that what the Climatron offers to people living here in St. Louis is an opportunity to see an environment that is totally unfamiliar to them, someplace that they may not travel to at any point in their lives. I hope that you all have an opportunity to come out and visit the Climatron, see the work that we're doing here at Missouri Botanical Garden. You can get more information about the Climatron and our hours by going to mobot.org.
A one-person show about Harriet Tubman later on Spotlight.
We are starving selectively cancer cells. We're depriving cancer cells of something they need.
Dr. William Hawkins' research at Washington University School of Medicine and Siteman Cancer Center is ground zero for the company Acuronics Therapeutics. Hawkins is one of the founders. The startup is supported by BioGenerator, the investment arm of BioSTL. Acuronics develops novel therapies that selectively target cancer cells by getting inside the cell and attacking from the inside.
What we meant when we chose Acuronics as a name is accurate, targeted, selective therapy.
The company was formed after more than a decade of research collaborations at the School of Medicine, leading to the design of a drug delivery system.
And then after several years of searching for the right compound to deliver to cancer, we created this molecule, ACXT3102.
The molecule is the basis of a new cancer drug in development.
ACXT3102 is an inhibitor of the NEX-CT transporter. And this is a transporter which brings in nutrients, more so for cancer cells than for other types of cells. And the reason the cancers grow so fast, their metabolism is so revved up, that they are more dependent on certain metabolites to run efficiently off of in their race to grow fast and without regulation. And so by inhibiting this transporter, and we do it from inside the cell, which is the creative part of this discovery, because we bring it up from inside the cell and attach the transporter from the inside. In so doing, we block the ability of the cell to get this very important nutrient, which the cancers are more dependent on than normal cells, and that can result selectively in cancer cell death.
The uniqueness is targeting the cancer cell from the inside. Getting it there is big.
And so the drug delivery is really the crux of this. And so that's where our company leads. And we're the only one who has a molecule that is getting inside the cancer and able to target this from the inside. Not only selectively binding cancer, but internalizing something. So it gets to the cancer cell and it gets inside the cancer cell, which was the aha moment.
Hawkins' initial focus is to treat pancreatic cancer.
We developed a drug to work in pancreatic cancer, but we've tested it in ovarian, we've tested it in colorectal, we've tested it in lung.
He also partnered with another lab at WashU to advance research for the cancer therapy. Dr. Brian Van Tine is the sarcoma program director at WashU School of Medicine and Siteman Cancer Center.
So I mainly focus on rare tumors, the bone and muscle tumors called sarcomas, of which synovial sarcoma is a subtype, which is the focus of where we've gone with the Accuronics drug.
His lab studies proved the strength of the Accuronics drug killing synovial sarcoma, a cancer that can come from different types of soft tissues. It's a rare type of cancer that typically appears in the hip, knee, ankle, or shoulder. The research indicates the possible new drug can kill synovial sarcoma alone without the use of other cancer treatments.
So what I'm really excited about is, especially as a rare tumor researcher, is we actually have a drug and a cancer, which seems to be a very good match. This is a new avenue for research. It's a new opportunity for therapy in a really different direction. And I'm excited to get to participate.
With a tumor like synovial sarcoma, really the drug is so effective. The idea of potentially having single drug, potentially curative therapies is on the table for this compound. You know, pancreas cancer right now, we give the patients 5 drugs, a lot of side effects, a lot of problems. Can we make that 2 drugs, if they're the right 2 drugs, less toxic, more cancer focused, better quality of life, and increased longevity?
The hope is for continued success, leading to clinical trials and FDA approval of this new cancer therapy, which would be in the form of a pill.
I think it certainly would be better for patients. Patients would prefer to take a pill than to have an intravenous infusion. So in the last couple of years, a big breakthrough for the company has been to have a soluble form of the drug that can be delivered orally and has shown efficacy in a number of our mouse tumor models.
St. Louis is a world leader in cancer research.
The first cancer genome ever sequenced anywhere in the world was done here.
Local startups are playing a major role.
If you just say, what are we working on in St. Louis? It's pretty much everything.
Developing diagnostics and treatments. Making strides right here in St. Louis.
We can use that information to train the immune system on what they need to seek out and destroy wherever it is in the body.
For the latest cancer research studies and clinical trials taking place in St. Louis, search the Cancer Research page at hecmedia.org.
We're here at Craft Alliance, where we have 2 exhibitions, Amy Firestone Rosen and Tommy Simpson. When you first walk in, you'll see the work of Amy Firestone Rosen, who's a mixed media artist, and it is on display on the ceiling of the Creative Commons.
A lot of my work has to do with feminism and the party dresses. And I wonder what women wear, and I go to places like Goodwill and estate sales, and I buy the most over-the-top party dresses that I can find that have wonderful textures that I know will translate into really interesting prints. And then I ink the dresses and I transfer that image and I make kind of a holographic print, and I have digital images taken of the print. And once the image is digital, I can format it any way I want. They were originally conceived at the Foundry in St. Charles, which has a massive space, and I envisioned a large sculpture to take up the space. The work of the foundry was very large and flowy, and I suppose a bit imposing because of the size of the work, and I suppose a bit inviting because it was a soft fabric. And then when it came to Craft Alliance, it feels much more like an installation, like a sailboat. You feel like you're sailing through the room. I love the way the softness of the fabric works against the industrial shapes of the space here, and I'm really thrilled.
After looking at Amy Firestone Rosen's work dancing on the ceiling in our Creative Commons, you can step into the Steinberg Gallery to see Tommy Simpson's exhibition, Head, Heart, Hand.
The exhibit is a mixed media show that I've done, where the idea is to encourage people to involve themselves in their own self-worth and self-artfulness. The work of the show is a mixed media over a long period of time. I've been doing it for 63 years. There are some gouache paintings and three-dimensional sculpture. There's some furniture and some ceramics, a little bit of everything. Some of the work was made for clients, some were made for myself, some were just for fun to build. I always sort of treated the mixed media approach as like if you go to a meal, you just don't want to eat peas, you want salad and all kinds of other goodies. And so why only eat one thing? We're all capable of this artfulness in whatever activity you do if you just allow yourself to do it. And so when you come to the exhibit, I hope it inspires you to give in to your own artfulness. It's in you, you just have to let yourself do it.
Both of the artists on view at Craft Alliance are exploring creativity in lots of different ways, and that's why we wanted to also encourage everybody who visits to explore their own creativity. So we have a few different activities that will be set up free all the time in our Creative Commons here, and they will be for all ages, from kids to adults, and all of those things will be available for people who are visiting. We're so excited to feature these two artists on view at the Craft Alliance until March 18th. And for more information, please visit our website at craftalliance.org.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
Oh, oh, get that freedom. Oh, freedom! I got to do my best in every single way. I want to live out the freedom that I have today. I want to honor those who came before me, who fought and died for a life they couldn't see. Freedom!
So the name of the show is called Harriet Tubman, an American Hero. And it falls under the category of a one-person show. So it's historical in content, and I play her life from age 9 to 92. And I play all of the roles, all of the different stages that she goes through, and the characters that she interacts with.
And even though you don't have to call nobody massa, and you can spend your money the way you want, you can't even vote.
But when I looked at Harriet Tubman's story, well, I thought that that was a story that I knew just like everybody else always feels that they know. But when I started researching, I was really blown away by the incredible energy and strategy that was used through the Underground Railroad and how she succeeded.
I have heard that you have made 19 trips secretly to free slaves. Is that true, Harriet Tubman? Oh, yes. I freed about 300. We need trustworthy and loyal people like you, Harriet Tubman. Would you be...
She was the first woman in the military in the United States to create and lead a military campaign. Through some of those, she freed like an additional 700 slaves. She really believed in her freedom. In fact, one of her quotes is that she felt that she had a right to two things, liberty
and freedom or death. And if I can't have one, I will have the other.
I think it's really timely because right now in the United States, we hear a lot about division, specifically, black and white. But In this story, I really saw how black people and white people really had to work vigorously together to free people through the Underground Railroad. And I felt like that's a really important story to tell.
Grow it so that there is freedom and social justice for all.
So she was always growing and redefining herself. And to me, that shows that we can continue to create for the rest of our lives. And that's how I want to be.
Out of my way, girl. That overseer pushed me. Look at me like he hate me. Don't make no sense, grown man hating me like that. He don't even know me or my name.
What I felt is that the show was good for their self-esteem. And the reason why is because it showed where they came from. They were completely into it on the edge of their seats. And then when she crossed the line into freedom, they just broke out into the spontaneous applause.
That's it. The Mason-Dixon line. One step from treachery into freedom.
By the end of the show, they were standing taller. And I saw their self-esteem grow. They came from a people who persevered and they didn't let anything stop them. And I felt like they took that on and gained pride about their heritage and therefore and thus who they are today. I just want them to reach their full potential. I just want them to know that they can be and do what they want to do. One thing that the show ends with is she says that whether you're born
on this land,
free or a slave,
I want you to keep the faith. And remember this, behind every great dream is a dreamer. And each of you here have the strength inside, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars and change the world.
Next week, 2 solo exhibits that feature unique 3D art. Plus, a group of people from all races and backgrounds share memories from small-town Missouri. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.